Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
What happened to me was an injustice because the law of basic property rights say like whatever you work for, generally you possess.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. My guest today is the great Nahshon Garrett, NCAA champ, four-time All-American for the Cornell Big Red. He was also on the 2018 World Team, and that's the focal point of our conversation today. Because right before that 2018 World Championships was set to start, Nahshon suffered a devastating injury that took him out of the event. He had to give his spot to Joe Colon. Ever since then, he's been on the road back up. He's training again. He's working out again. And we talk about the peaks and valleys of that injury and the layoff. Fan of the Week goes to John Gay from Folsom, California. Thank you for tuning in, John. Greatly appreciated. Folks, I'm going to talk about it once again. Beat the Street Chicago. We're holding our annual virtual gala. It's normally an in-person gala. But this year it's virtual, taking place June 6th from 8 to 9 p.m., Saturday, June 6th. It would mean the world to me if you would attend this thing. It's free to attend, and I really want you to see what we're doing here at Beat the Street Chicago. To register, please go to WrestlingChangeMyLife.com, click on the Beat the Streets tile, and you can register from there. That's it, folks. Let's get to the episode with the great Nahshon Garrett. Peace! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with podcast extraordinaire, freestyle champion, Nahshon Garrett.
Let's
How you
doing? What's up? Man, what's going on? Did wrestling change my life? I'm excited to be on the show. You've done such an amazing job on it. I'm impressed.
I'm honored to have you on the show, and the fact that we've exchanged some mutual pleasantries over the social channels, and man, it seems like we have a lot of similar interests, so I'm excited to rip into this one, man.
Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Now, a newly married man, how long ago has it been since you got married, sir?
Bro, I got married January 11th. I don't want to forget now. January 11th, newly married. It's been amazing so far. So a little bit over a month. Or today's the 10th, right?
Today's the 10th. Yes.
Yeah. So not even a month yet. So one more day until a month, and then we're there. We did it. We made it. The hardest part is done.
That's the wedding. I can promise you that. Well, dude, one of the things I'm most fascinated in is when people who are super obsessive about something, like you are about wrestling, how they have relationships, because sometimes that can be a problem, you know?
Bro, I've actually felt the same thing. Like, and not only that, I've felt like people who have babies, people who have like whole like family units to deal with, that, you know, obviously because I'm cutting down to 57 kilos, and so I'm thinking I don't have time to like love you and like support you. I want to do my own thing. I got to focus on becoming an Olympic champ. So it's very difficult. It's very hard, but it's I guess it's rewarding in the end. Yeah, it is for sure.
Does your wife have an athletic background, or is this all new to her, this crazy world of wrestling?
Okay, so she can't dance, and but she used to swim. She did taekwondo. She knows 4 languages. She's getting her PhD. So I feel like, you know, she's got her own thing that she's doing, but she doesn't do the athletic thing as much anymore, which is kind of sad. But she still works out and she still stay fit.
I love that you led with she can't dance.
Yeah, I mean, if there was one thing, I mean, I have everything else, but if there was one thing, I think I could change. I would say I wish that she could bust a move. Honestly, I wish she could bust a move, dog. we were at our wedding, and and I was trying to put together, and so me. Obviously, I've been dancing ever since I was a little kid, dancing, entertaining, singing, do my little Michael Jackson bit. And me and my brother, I have a twin brother. And so we used to perform at our rallies, our high school rallies. There's actually videos on YouTube if you want to check it out. And we would just blow the whole thing up, But we would come up with these dances, these choreographed dances, 3-4 days out, performing in front of 4,000 teenage kids.
Okay.
And so I'm used to having pressure on me to let's go, figure it out. We're going to get, all right, it's 1, 2, step, hit. There it is. And I was trying to do this, but the day before I got married with Steffi, and she was freaking out. She's like, we should have done this weeks ago. I'm like, what? What do you mean? This is easy. But so
you're prepping for the wedding dance the day before?
I was prepping for the wedding dance the day before, and it's needless to say, it did come out amazing, but only because I had to lead a little bit. So
that's crazy. Is that the same brother who's a ballet dancer? The one who you were doing this with back in the day?
That's right. It's the same one. Great dancer, flexible as heck. I mean, he put a lot of work in, a lot of working hours into ballet, and he did a good job. He was in Boston. He got a scholarship to Boston Ballet, and he was out there for a couple weeks. And so, or no, I think it was a whole month. But he's legit. He's super legit.
There's some elite performers in the Garrett family for sure.
We do have some of that.
A track star at Berkeley, I've heard.
Track star at Berkeley. My sister Candy. Shout out to Candy for being awesome. Yeah, she's just great. She graduated from Berkeley. I think she double majored. Don't ask me in what. And she's a good person, man. She's been killing it. She's been killing it. She got babies now. She's married, but she was fast back in the day too. She was All-American, I think, in 2007 in the 4 by whatever the relay, the 400 relay or the 800 relay.
4 by 100.
Yeah, 4 by 100 relay.
Okay. A total off the cuff. No idea if it's true or not.
Yeah, no. Honestly, it sounds right. So at this point in time.
Well, dude, the reason I was asking about you getting married earlier is that I just thought it was unique timing that you got married 18 months after you were out of wrestling for a while with an injury. So you had a lot of time, a lot of downtime, and I want to learn about that process. And you just came back. The Bill Farrell was your first one back in. Was it 18 months?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, almost 18 months. Yeah.
And I have loved reading about how your perspectives change and how you've enjoyed the process more. So, I mean, let's just start with 2018 Final X. You make the world team. You're heading into the training camp. Kind of take us through that whole process and where the injury started and when you finally had to make the decision to pull out.
Okay, so so make the team. We go over to Turkey. We're hanging out. Got a bunch of video from Turkey. Great team, great people, great vibes. Everything's cool in my world. We go to Colorado. Colorado's, it was a beautiful place. It's the Springs. Stay hydrated because it'll suck it out of you. But so after our training camp in Colorado, and stuff was just picking up. We were learning. We were really growing. I get back on that Sunday. I go back to work out on that Monday. I'm suited up. I think we leave that maybe Friday to go out to Germany, or maybe it was that Friday to go out to Germany. So I'm there Monday working out, just making sure I'm getting my weight right. And it's the last 5 minutes of I'm wrestling with Zane Richards. I had brought him as my partner, training for it. He's got a really great foreign feel. And the last 5 minutes, had a front headlock. I reached over to his hamstring, went to do this roll that usually you lock up a cradle and then you can roll guys backwards.
Okay.
And I did that, but I didn't have my hands locked. And I've done this before. My shoulder got extended. I didn't think anything of it. It got extended a little bit more than maybe what it's used to, but I heard a rip, dude. And after that, it was like I knew something was off. And so we got surgery, and the next day, and then no, not got surgery. We didn't get surgery. We got surgery 2 days later. But then around the time when we knew.
So when did you go from you're in this scrap, you have a little scramble, you feel something, afterwards you know it's in trouble. Did you go to Coach Cole or did you go to Bill Zadek? Like, how did you get from there to the point where the doctor said, dude, this is a problem. You cannot wrestle?
Okay, so essentially, I was actually in Arizona. I was with Zeke Jones. I tell Zeke, hey, this is not good. He says, all right, just hop on the bike. I get on the bike. I'm trying to feel it, just kind of feel out where I'm at. How's my squeezing ability? We had a guy named Dr. Chopper. He's like, one of the best. And we went up to the Mayo Clinic. I think he works at the Mayo Clinic. And he looked at me and he was basically just like, here's the news. It's tore. You tore your pec. I thought it was maybe a bicep. I thought it was, maybe something different, but he said you tore your pec. From that point on, I think we went to go get X-rays on it, or a CAT scan or something on it to check it out. And right after that news, that's when I had called Bill and let him know, I tore my pec. And and I told him that I wanted to, like, if he would give me Joe Cologne's number, like I wanted to be the one to call him. And so I ended up calling him, and and then I made some phone calls to some of the other guys on the team, Kyle and Jordan, and some of the guys I was closer to on the team, just let them know, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. I actually tore my pec off, and
dude, it's and I only want to focus on this because from what I've read, the growth from then to now and your perspective is just unbelievable. And that's obviously what we're going to lead into. But dude, that phone call had to be probably one of the more emotional things you've ever done in your life with you and Joe Cologne. I mean, someone you're battling with tooth and nail a couple months earlier. Now you're calling them. It's like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a crazy experience. And for me, I'm in between the balance of, and I'm trying to work this out with my mental coach. But I'm in the balance of, like, is it fate or do you create your own fate? Like, are you in the hands of like something higher, or are you creating for yourself what you want in life and, using the potential energy to manifest, whatever, right? I'm in the middle. I think there's a little bit of both. At this point in time, this was something completely out of my hands. There was nothing I could have done to control it. And so I had to accept it at that point. The moment it happened, I accepted this happened. There's nothing I could have done about it. There must have been a reason for it. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason was, but there must have been a reason for it. And was
that the first injury you had?
That was, the first, like, really, like, that was the first surgery I've ever had. The first thing that required a surgery, right. First major one. So it was me accepting it early helped a lot, because then my emotions weren't like, too all over the place when I was calling people and stuff. So I just accepted it and I dealt with the emotions later.
Right. So had to be, it sucks. It's like, what rhyme or reason is there for that? It's a freak thing. I mean, it's not like you had an injury that you were kind of nursing. It just freaking happened. So how long was it until you were able to even start thinking about training again, or even wanted to train again?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was probably about, I wanted to start training. So it happened in October. I don't think I started thinking about training until like January, really.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't even allowed to think about training, to be honest. They wouldn't let me, even let me start to get back into a training cycle. And so, yeah, it was difficult. You go through from training as a world-class athlete for, this long stretch and period of time, and to not doing anything at all, bro. It's it's nuts. It was really crazy.
Because I mean, you've been working out multiple times a day for decades. You know, maybe not decades, but ever since you got to college, and you know, before that, you were multiple time state champion multiple time state champion in high school. So it's like, dude, you've been going at it for a long time. I mean, that's got to be the first time you'd taken up that much time in since you were a kid.
Oh yeah, and I started late too because I started in 8th grade. So like I was constantly trying to catch up to people too. So I might have done a little bit extra just to kind of make sure I was where I needed to be. So yeah, this was a big hit, man. It was a big hit, and it was the longest stretch of time I'd ever been off the mat. You know, it really caused you to rethink, you know, your value for yourself, your value for the sport, your value. It really caused you to rethink some things and, you know, reformulate some things in your mind, how you perceive life in general.
Well, I've heard you say that it was something where you couldn't control this from happening. You couldn't have prevented this from happening, even if even if you knew about it. It's like it just was a freak thing, and so that kind of, for a minute there, you went through a spell where you're like, if I can't control that, what's the point of doing anything? And then you've come around to the point now where it's, you know, all you can control is the process. So you're grateful for that. That seems like a big gap to bridge, and there was a lot of like self-exploration in between there. I guess what kind of led you to that, and how long did you spend and thought about that stuff?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I probably spent so much time in my head that even coming back to like, even now I'm still feeling the effects of like being in that place. And not that it's a negative thing, right? Because like I've always asked a lot of questions. I've always been the type of person who's very overthinks and is very heady about things. But this was like a new level of headiness in a sense. It was a new level of trying to perceive something that was like really bad and really negative. Because I've had bad stuff happen in my life, but I've never had bad stuff personally happen to me where I felt that it was unjustified and unwarranted, where I noticed it, if that makes sense. So like I've never noticed anyone being like racially insensitive towards me, or I've never noticed, you know, bullying. I don't think I've ever been bullied that I've noticed, you know. I've never experienced some of those things where it's just like, it's unjustifiable, where it's an injustice to the person who's being attacked or being, whatever's happened to them.
Right.
So this was one of the first times where I felt like this seems like something that was unjust, that the universe, the world, whatever, it's unjust. Like not that it is unjust, like God or anyone's unjust, but that what happened to me was an injustice. Because the law of basic property rights say like whatever you work for, generally you possess. That it belongs to you. So no one can take away the hard work of someone who has dug the ground and the soil, planted the seed, made it water. You know, I can't cause the growth.
Right.
You know, only God can cause the growth. But I have to do the work. I have to do my part, right? So. And
you felt like you were doing your part up until that point.
I felt like I was doing my part. You know, like I should have seen some. It's almost like I planted, I watered, I dug. Got prepared the soil, did it the right way. The tree comes up, the fruit is on the tree. Someone comes and picks up all my fruit.
Fucking hurricane comes and blows that shit away. It's like,
exactly. Dude. Yo, really?
Oh my God.
Really?
Man.
And so then you ask like, who's to blame, right? Who's to blame? Because how do I get restitution,
right,
in this situation, right? Because I can only think about it in legal terms. Like if I worked for something, you know what I'm saying? Like if I've worked for something and if I've put my heart and my all in that, I'm not saying that a world championship belonged to me, but what I'm saying is that I did enough work where I felt I at least deserved to represent and to try and to get there, you know. And then we'll let what happens happen.
Right. But you didn't even get a chance to get there, though. That's the
I didn't get a chance to get there. Exactly. I didn't get a chance to taste the fruit. I didn't get a chance to hold the fruit in my hand. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, I like restitution in some way, shape, or form, right? Um, so that was my thought process, man. That was really my thought process going by it. Like, is there justice? Will there be justice for this situation?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
What did you do during that time when you couldn't work out to kind of fill your time? Were you doing a lot of saunas, meditations, cold showers? I mean, how did you kind of get through there? Because a lot of people listening to this used to wrestle. They don't have that outlet anymore. Fortunately, like yourself, you're back training now. You're getting to exercise those demons twice a day, every day. But for the folks who can't, what were some things you did when you couldn't actually wrestle that got you through that?
So there was a few things that I felt particularly helped. The one thing I started doing, I actually was introduced to the Wim Hof method.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I started getting into that. And I did that actually for pretty consistently for about two months or so. After this time, I started, doing the cold showers. I shout out to Morosco Forge. They are a tub company, essentially, like where it keeps the water like at around freezing temperatures so that you can, it's sweet. Morosco Forge, you should check them out at Morosco Forge.
You got one in the house?
I don't want. I had one in Arizona, but when I left, they repossessed it.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
That
but
sounds sweet, though.
it's freaking awesome. It's awesome. So, but their whole concept is like, like this helps with mental health. It helps with, you just conquering some fear and, just dealing with some stuff that is that physically getting into the water. How are you accepting that? And even to this day, I get into the cold water and I think, wow, see, the funny part is that while I couldn't compete, I was trying to train my mind to be competitive during this time. And I would do that by doing stuff that I didn't want to do, because sometimes that's what training is like, doing stuff that you don't want to do, creating habits, being repetitive, good habits, and the whole perfect practice makes perfect type thing. Now, the thing about being in a cold tub is when you go into a cold tub, it's always going to be cold. It's not the tub that's changing. It's not what's in the tub that's changing. The water is not changing. It's going to be cold. How you respond to the cold, how you function in the cold is what matters. And so you can develop yourself and allow this thing to give you something that you didn't have before. So a lot of people step into a cold tub and think it's taking away something from them. Think it's taking away my warmth. It's taking away my comfortability. It's taking away something that it's taking away something that's easy for me. And for me, it was, and I think for a lot of people who do have the practice of getting in a cold tub, it's I'm receiving something from the cold. So I don't think about it as this is a bad thing, or this is, something's being taken from me. I believe I'm receiving something from this, healing properties and other things.
It's incredible that shift is all just not just in the mind, but it's in the mind. To your point, the water didn't change, the tub didn't change, but something in you changed in the sense that going in there before maybe was a task or something you dreaded. I know I've experimented with it. I dreaded it every time.
Oh my gosh.
But to your point, if you go in there with a different mindset, you can get different things out of it. I think that's got to parallel a lot of things in life.
100%. 100%. So, I mean, it's something that I would definitely challenge people to try or to do, especially if they want to, have a higher sense of maybe their body and mind awareness. Because if your mind, one thing a concept I developed a little bit is that when you go in, it's like your mind and your body are supposed to be working together as one. But something wants to come in between and separate them. And what happens when there's a separation is chaos. We get freaked out, we get uncomfortable. And we need to learn how to overcome chaos. We have to learn how to overcome things that we can't control. You cannot control the fact that well, you can if you wanted to, but in this situation, you can't control the fact that the water's cold. The water's going to be cold. It's not going to change. But you can't control whether or not you will allow it to separate you from you.
And are there, you think, moments in matches where there are micro moments of chaos throughout a match where...
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes, 100%. And there are places that you have to go. There's like dark places that you have to go. And there's some things that you will have to experience that want to tear your mind from your body. I was just learning this today from my mental coach. He said, your mind is like water. It's always going to flow to the easiest place. So
it's so annoying though, isn't it? Why the heck does the mind have to do that? Well, everything that you want to do, it's like it tries to talk you into the easier route, whatever it is, waking up, eating right. There's always something. Because
the third thing that my coach says is our mind wants to do two things. It's trained to do two things, or it's almost primitive in a sense of like that it wants to survive and it wants to not thrive, but let me see. Let me check my. I forget exactly the other thing, but it was like we either want to survive and we want to. I forget. I can't remember the other thing. I just had a conversation with them about it, but
it's fine. I think the point you're making is that whenever obstacles are presented, the mind wants to take the easier path. So if you let it, it's going to go that way. But you were saying, throughout a match or throughout different parts of training, there's points where you have to go into the dark waters, as you said.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, that being said, we have to learn how to control our minds. We have to learn how to, create habits of the right mental processes. We have to, because in a match, when someone's beating on your head or when someone's pushing the pace on you, it's uncomfortable, man.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
Do you think some of the times you've made the biggest jumps in terms of your ability to operate when you're tired have happened in a match or happened during a particular workout?
Great question.
Like some of the biggest breakthroughs for you.
Some of the biggest breakthroughs for me, well, right. So in competition, I think some of it is like you get to see whether or not what you were doing in practice is sticking, right, and holding. So in some ways, I feel like competition is just a manifestation of what happens in practice. I would say that for the most part, most of it happens in practice, but because there's a lot of things that happen in practice that people will never ever see on the mat, whether it's generally will never see on the mat. For example, for me, if I cry or if I'm, do some freak out or cuss or do something like that, like generally it's in the mat room. So that way I put it all out there. So that way I can have a very stoic, centered, peaceful, countenance when I'm wrestling.
But it happens. I mean, to your point, there's been times when anyone has had those moments in practice, and it's, I don't know if they happen more frequently or less frequently the older you get, but I mean, we even have them as adults, right? I mean, it happens all the time. Do you remember one in particular where, like, when you're maybe your first semester coming into Cornell, or like one of the big turning points for you in terms of?
I actually do. I always remember this. So we're talking about as far as like that to that brink, where that wall was kind of pushed back. Okay, I remember there was one point in time I was with a guy named Mike Thorne. He wrestled at Minnesota. He's the older brother of the other Thorne boy.
The podcast. We love Mike.
Oh, Thorne. Is that right? Oh, no way,
dude! Speaking of this, got the UM mug right here, Minnesota mug.
Let's go,
dude. Yeah, no, a big fan of those guys. Actually, Zach Sanders sent that to me, and I got connected with him through, actually, ironically, BJ Futrell. But Thorne, Sanders, that whole crew, all that same era, great group of guys.
Great group of guys. So, Thorne, we went in for a workout. I'm thinking maybe it's going to be a little bit light workout, but we get into a workout. I think I hurt my ankle or something. So we started wrestling, and then I think I hurt my ankle. So he's like, all right, let's go in the sauna. And so we go into the sauna, and we do this plate workout in the sauna. I'm like, what the heck are we doing? This plate's hot. Hot plate. And I'm trying to, I don't know, I forget exactly what the workout was, but I know we were lifting it up, and we were doing some heavy stuff and holding it. And I just remember being so broke by that workout he put me in. And he was yelling, do you want to beat McDonough? Do you want to beat these guys? And I'm like, yes, I do. But this is hard. And but it was that one I remember in particular that really pushed me. I remember that so fondly. And so to this day, I give him thanks for being one of the first, not the first, but one of the first guys when I got into college, got into Cornell to push me to that level.
Oh man, I know there's so many more where that came from, but one thing you mentioned there with McDonough, obviously that was a huge match when you were a freshman in the quarters, I believe, and I cannot find the match online. So if you have it in your archives, dude, post it.
Where are those matches? Where are those NCAA matches?
People have them.
I wish I knew.
It's like they were recorded. Where the hell are they?
Stop hiding them. Bring them out. If you're listening to this, bring it out. Let us know, because I myself and other wrestlers that I know of would love to look back at some of those memories. Those are memories for us as much as they are for anybody else. And it's like, they have them archived, hidden away with lock and key, and fed the key to the dragon kind of thing. It's like, can we get, I want to be able to access some of that stuff, and it's really difficult too. So
it's the schools record most matches. ESPN records most of the matches. I mean, where the hell are they? All right.
Right.
Once in a while, some random match will get out. This is like the dark days before Flow, right? Yeah, you see like a random Big Ten final here from the 90s. You're like, all right, where's the rest of the tournament? Obviously, they were recording it. Were they just intent on not releasing any footage? But I mean, so I wasn't there. I didn't get to watch McDonough match. I know you won in overtime. What do you remember from the match in terms of kind of your mentality going in and what took place in terms of the sparring and action during it?
Yeah, so the first time, I want to preface this by saying the first time I wrestled McDonough, I came out firing all cylinders. I don't know where this match is either, but boom, with the first 10 seconds, blast double takedown. And then he ended up beating the hell out of me. Well, I don't know if he gave me a good beatdown. He controlled the match for sure. I think it was maybe 8-3 final score.
Where was that at?
That was at the National Duels.
Rest in peace.
2000, yeah, R.I.P. Now, because he rode me so hard, they forced me to basically, whenever I would go into practice and we would do top bottom, I was always sprawled out. I always had to learn how to base up, learn how to get up. I'm like, okay. So I had to, every day, ever since the National Duels, they were like, no one can ride you. I'm like, okay, that sucks. So it was good. It ended up proving to be very useful because I didn't get ridden out at all. So obviously make the quarterfinals.
You're a freshman, right?
I'm a freshman.
Okay.
I'd won the first two, made the quarters, and I'm pumped. I'm excited to wrestle and stuff. And so I had taken a couple shots on him where he managed to get out of it. I had taken a couple double leg shots where he managed to get out of it. Now, the thing was he was very long. He's very long and very strong. And so it was hard to hard to get control of his body. And I knew going into like that, I don't know if I wrote him out the third period. I think I did write him out the third period. I was on top. I remember just thinking, just hang on, just a little bit longer. And I remember, I think it was like 59 seconds of writing time in the third period. 59 seconds. So I was like this close to getting a minute and then winning in criteria.
Oh, so you wrote him to send it to overtime.
I wrote him to send it into overtime.
Okay.
Yes. So, no, I think it was like 2-2, and I was on top. And like if I had gotten the point, then I would have won in criteria.
Okay.
So I was like 59 seconds. All right, we're going to overtime. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I can let him shoot on me because I need to be the first person to shoot. And so as I think about it, I'm like, okay, I've gotten to double legs 2-3 times, but he just keeps on getting his hips back and pushing me away because he's so long. And so I shot a double from within the first like 10 seconds, shot a double. As I was driving, I needed to get my hips underneath him so I could lift him up. And so, you'll hear the announcer say, shot by Garrett. Oh, inside trip by Garrett. And then I lift him up and plant him on his hip on the edge of the mat. And to be honest, that was like really the first time I ever jumped up and celebrated and did a whole thing because it was just crazy. It was a very surreal moment.
Dude, especially where you're at the Nationals, you're a true freshman, and it
was in Iowa.
It was in Des Moines that year. Okay, so shit's going crazy now.
It's popping off.
Going into the match, knowing that he had beat you a couple weeks before that, was he owning some mental real estate on you, or were you focused on yourself in the tournament, not versus like a singular opponent?
I mean, I might have had like a freak out at some point in time. I definitely did. I had a freak out. Like the day before.
No, I definitely did.
The day before the tournament, I remember calling my sister and being like, I'm so afraid right now. Just really, really kind of like fearful. And, she was like, control yourself and, to do what you can, words of wisdom, that kind of thing. And so, no, I wouldn't say that anyone or anything was particular in my head. I just knew that I think I had a pretty good draw up until McDonough. But I mean, that's not a good draw because say you win the first two, like you get to the quarters, he's a 2-time national champ, 3-time finalist. Like that's a bad draw.
Just
for
gritty
anybody.
Too. I mean,
and you knew it was going to be a hard match. And it's like, oh my gosh. But I don't think I let any of that get into my mind. I was just like, I need to do what I got to do. And so it was a beautiful thing, needless to say.
Beautiful thing. And dude, fast forward a couple years, not that you're back in the finals, but you were back in the finals, but you're wrestling another Iowa guy, Corey Clark. How different were those two guys to wrestle in terms of strategy and pace and so forth?
I've wrestled 3 Iowa guys. 3 guys. Gilman.
Yeah.
Clark. And they're so good at hand fighting. They're like on you. It's like get off me, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you on me like this? So and I get it, but it's like, goodness gracious, like give a brother some space. Get a brother get some space.
Jesus,
it really, yeah. So they all wrestled like that, very handsy. And Clark and McDonough have a little bit more similar body type than they all have like very similar body types. I want to say that Gilman is like shorter, but like Gilman's a tall dude. He's like lengthy.
Yeah. But like McDonough was like big. He was cutting. There was rumors of him cutting in July to make 125. That's how big and tall McDonough was. Like
I believe it.
He was huge, dude. And I mean the other guys look big too, but to your point, kind of similar body types.
Yeah, I mean he was long, lengthy, just like yeah. And I understand that. Obviously, they had a good team that year. I don't know necessarily know if he could have bumped up or so, but yeah, it was. They wrestle very similar. The style is just keep going forward, keep going forward. And they are all really good in like these, like, you know, when you have the seatbelt position, they're all really good there. They're all very like want good defensively on the leg when you get to their legs. Like, it's just they're just tough to wrestle. My goodness, they're just tough to
guys.
wrestle.
What can you say?
Tough guys. What can he say? What are you gonna say? I mean, and I got nothing against him either. I'm a huge fan. Like, to me, my style, my senior year was very much more of an Iowa style than any other type of style. Like, I think it was very handsy. It was very gritty. I moved a lot, but I wanted to put my hands on folk. You know what I mean? But then I wrestled an Iowa guy, and I'm like, yo, I don't want to put my hands on. Yo, give me some space. Let me take you down.
Now, you talk about different styles. You were training down at ASU for a while. When did you get back to Cornell?
I got back to Cornell in, like, I don't know, August 29th, August 30th. But am I going to be on video, by the way?
Some of it will be. Not the whole interview. You can eat, though. Hey,
Okay.
folks, we got a world-class athlete here. He's fueling up, all right? Forgive the eating. We're not going to judge you, Nahshon.
I just really didn't want the stereotype to kind of play into this too much.
I didn't know if you were eating Doritos or what. I'm like, is that a Dorito?
yeah, the Doritos. Yeah, no, I just cut up some watermelon, and I don't know. I'm just not really into playing into stereotypes, but today I am.
He's getting hydrated. He's getting nutrients.
Some simple sugars.
Let's go. When is practice today?
4:45. Speaking of, I'll need to leave like soon.
Okay.
Like,
let me know.
Yeah,
5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes.
I want to say like 2 minutes.
Okay, we'll wrap it down because we're gonna have you back on, dude. Because we're
please do.
We're riffing. We're having some fun, dude.
Please do.
Oh, we got to. There's a laundry list of things we haven't talked about yet, but let's keep it simple. I know you're a guy who, you know, from what I've read, you and I come from a kind of a similar situation, not your typical Cornellian household upbringing by any means. I'm the same way. Let's keep it simple though. How did wrestling change your life, or what has wrestling given you, or what have you learned from it? That's really made a big impact for you personally.
Wrestling is it's a great question, first of all, and I have thought about this, and I don't want to answer too fast because sometimes if you speak too quickly, you don't say what you want to say. Wrestling has provided me so many opportunities that I don't think I would have even come near to if I hadn't done the sport. It was the first thing in my life that I felt like I had control over in my life, where when I was wrestling, everything else disappeared. I didn't have to deal with a mother who was struggling with substance abuse. I didn't have to deal with I don't know, the insomnia of life, you know, the insomnia that life was creating for me.
Mm-hmm.
There was a place where I could learn how to put my emotions and put them into something positive, I guess you could say. It really has meant the world to me, and the fact that my journey has led me to be on a platform where, you know, at least some people know me, and where I can make a positive influence and a positive impact on other people. I remember watching videos of Jordan Burroughs when I was a junior in high school, and thinking, oh my gosh, I want to wrestle just like that. And then, you know, to meeting him my freshman year at the Vegas tournament, to being on the same team as him, to him tweeting at me, to us becoming like legitimately good friends.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that it has afforded me opportunities I would never have gotten if I had not done this. And wrestlers, we're such a unique species. We're connected in so many ways, by so many different things. But we're connected by the hardship and the grit and just endurance and the pain and the suffering. People who suffer together, there's something to be said about like people, even if we're not together, but like you were on a different team or you wrestled at some point in time, you've experienced a type of suffering, and it's the collective suffering that holds us together and keeps us close. If we didn't suffer together, we maybe wouldn't be as close, but like anybody who's a wrestler and he says, oh, I used to wrestle, 5 years, I did this. And, there's always a story of, oh, I was cutting weight one time and I puked this up, or, this happened, or I ate too much. And, I was cutting weight and, I got my butt whooped, so there's always.
It's like the thing for, it's, if someone said, hey, here's this thing you put in your hands, if you work as hard as you can at it, both physically and mentally, this little thing can take you all over the world. And by the way, no one can take it away from you. Only, it's yours to do what you want with. Go ahead. And like that was wrestling for you. And so, just amazing at that. That's kind of led you to where you're at now. It's awesome.
Man, it's been incredible. I'm incredibly thankful for the sport. Truly.
Well, we don't want you to be late for practice, my friend. I know you're coming up on the on the window here, so we'll let you go. But definitely got to have you back on. I had a lot of fun researching you and listening to. I mean, you got podcasts we haven't even talked about yet. You got a podcast with your wife. You got your own podcast. Dude, there's so much shit.
I got a YouTube channel. Oh, also.
Where can they find you? Sign off with go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. You can find me at Nahshon Garrett _ on Instagram and Nahshon Garrett on YouTube. And I do have a podcast. The podcast is kind of put away a little bit in a safe place for right now, just because it's not sustainable for this season of my life. But the YouTube channels are. Speaking of, I am putting out a YouTube vlogging series that is going to cover my next 7 weeks of training and everything. I'm going to put on YouTube. So every episode is going to be 2 days of my training, thoughts, whatever it is, leading up into the Olympic trials.
Beautiful, dude.
Leading up into the Olympic trials. So I'll just be vlogging it out. And so I already have 2 episodes up. 1 episode up. I'm working on the second episode, day 3 and day 4. So 7 weeks of this, and we should probably have some fit anywhere from 15 to 20 episodes up. And so hopefully that gets some traffic and people get to see, hey, what am I going through? What's happening? Because it's something I don't see a lot of high level athletes doing. It's just, we're so secretive and hidden, and we don't, and I don't think on purpose, really. I just think that we just don't have the time, the effort, the energy, or maybe we just don't want people to see us a certain type of way, but I'm willing to let people see that, because I think it, I don't know how long I'll be in the sport, but, for as long as I do have, I'd like to document some of it and let people know, hey, wrestlers are who they say they are. We are the real deal, especially at an elite level. We don't get the love that we should get, from maybe the outside, but we get everything that we need out of the sport to help us in our own personal lives, I think. Right. Or we should, you know what I mean? The character, that kind of thing.
I love that you're doing it. And in the meantime, folks, you got to go listen to Nahshon's episode where he does the Bill Farrell recap. It's not even about the Bill Farrell. It's about this incredible journey he's been on from the injury to now. And that's one of my favorite podcasts I've listened to in a long time, man. I think it's episode 5.
Wow. Yeah.
Where you do that. It's just you on there riffing for a while. So I can't wait to watch the YouTube series.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Funny part about that. So that was maybe a 22-minute episode or so. I put 26 minutes. I cut it down to 22 minutes. I had done a whole thing of that, and it didn't capture. I didn't press my audio on, so it didn't capture any audio.
So was that the second time through?
So that was the second time through.
That's why it's so crisp and clean, dude.
That's why it's clean. I know.
Dude, it's fucking good. It's really good.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that love,
really
bro.
Good, dude. Yeah, man. Well, dude, it's been an honor. Can't wait to chat again. Best of luck at practice tonight, my friend.
Appreciate it. Wrestling changed my life. Best podcast out there.
Who?
Appreciate it. Love you. Thank you so much.
Go Big Red. Take care, my friend.
Go Big Red. All right, my man. You too. Bye.
And all great things must come to an end. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, give us a review, give us a rating, and share this with your friends. It would mean the world to us. Thanks for listening to Wrestling Changed My Life. 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 Listening to Wrestling Changed My